Hello, my name is Darren Thomas and I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this particular video, we're going to take a look at classroom management and trying to manage teaching large classes. So let's go ahead and see what we can learn. Now, you're going to have three common problems, and of course there's going to be three common solutions at a minimum to teaching large classes. So you can see right here the problems and the strategy, however you want to see it. You're going to have problems with engagement, and you're going to have problems with grading assignments due to the quantity of assignments, and also logistics. These are all interrelated ideas basically, but these are the ones we're going to focus on in this particular video. So when we're talking about engagement, as a class gets larger and larger, it gets harder and harder for people to stay engaged and pay attention. So you get a lot of this like what you see in the lower right hand corner. Kids start to put their heads down and they go to sleep. And we're not even going to talk about how students often do not get sleep at all in college or even in high school nowadays. That's a separate discussion. But keeping kids engaged is going to be hard, especially when you have like traditional rows and theater seating like in this upper right hand corner picture. This is a recipe for nap time. It's not conducive to having to sit and be engaged and awake for long periods of time. So one common strategy for dealing with teaching large classes where you have to rely on a lecture style to share and present information is to break the information up into chunks, as you can see over here in this first bullet. And so what we're talking about here is that you literally lecture for 8 to 10 minutes, and then you have some sort of a transition break where students can summarize what they learned, discuss it, with some questions, or they can reteach it to a neighbor. These different approaches help to break up receiving large amounts of information. Now, the ideal of 8 to 10 minutes is not based on science. It's just based on being an actual teacher and being in the classroom. And the rationale behind that is that if you watch television, normally it's 8 to 10 minutes, then a commercial break. 8 to 10 minutes, then another commercial break. So in other words, the human mind is often programmed to pay attention for 8 to 10 minutes at a time at the most, because that's how long a segment in a television show may last. As an example, again, this is not based on science, it's based on practical experience. So when you are setting up your content for a large class, and again, we never really define a large class, it all depends on the context, but probably 30 to 40 or more students. When you are teaching classes of that size or larger, you might want to keep in mind this ideal of chunking the material, where you lecture, have a little activity, lecture some more, have a little activity, to keep the students engaged and not stuck in a constant state of being passive and receiving information. Another common problem when you're dealing with a large class is, of course, having to grade. So again, we didn't define a large class, but let's say you're teaching a class of 60 kids, 70 kids, and imagine trying to collect, 60, 70 essays every week or once a month or whatever. That is a lot of heavy duty marking where you have to spend a lot of time going over the assignment, trying to provide feedback, and it gets very tedious. So there are several different approaches to this. So of course you can see the first bullet there, group projects. So going back to my example of a class of 60, which is even considered small in some universities, you put the kids in, groups of 4. Now you have only 15 projects you have to mark instead of 60 assignments. Or you put them in groups of 5 and you have 12 projects you have to mark instead of 60 assignments. So putting students in groups for assessment purposes can reduce the workload in terms of having to grade assignments. Another strategy is selective marking. So this is very, very useful for providing formative feedback. So when you're not really trying to give a grade, but just trying to make them aware of their progress. And also when you're dealing with more subjective things like essays and research papers. And so with selective marking, you focus on one aspect of the assignment and you only mark that. So it could be only grammar, or it could be, do they have the 5 sections of an essay or whatever, or the various components of a research paper. You're just checking a specific aspect of the assignment and not the whole thing. This is excellent for formative feedback, but may not be appropriate when you're trying to start assigning grades. Another ideal, of course, is this is the third bullet. This is sectional grading. And so with sectional grading, what's going on here is we are dividing up who marks what. If you, for example, you have several TAs. And so each TA will do one piece. And by allowing them to focus on one part, as you're marking, you get faster and faster with that one section, and you're able to move much more quickly, as an example. So break up an essay into several parts. You read the introduction, someone else reads the body and conclusion. That might not be the best example, but that's a way to break it up. And then you just focus on your one part. It's almost like the jigsaw technique for learning, except you're using it for the grading purposes. And of course, peer review. I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on the details of peer review. Having students give each other feedback eliminates your job almost to zero. You're just checking, as an example. And lastly, you can always automate. So automation takes a lot of work to set up, but it pays dividends for months, if not years. And so if you're teaching stuff online, you set up automated quizzes that provide feedback for specific wrong answers, allow students to retake the exam, or excuse me, the quiz, as an example, lets them know how well they did. All this programming takes a lot of time in terms of filling out the feedback, what cutoff point to get which type of comment, whether or not they can retake the exam, etc. All that takes a lot of time to set up. But once it's set up, it does the work for you. Lastly, and this is kind of more of a miscellaneous general section, when you're dealing with a large class, you're going to have a lot of challenges with communication and just basic classroom management in general. More bodies means more people talking, means more people not listening, which means more time spent repeating yourself. And so that can be very, very draining and challenging. Normally, in most classrooms today, when you have a large number of students, there's usually some sort of a PA system, microphone and a speaker in there to save your voice. But this may not always be the case, and there may be times where it's out of order. So you have the physical drain of having to project your voice to the back of the classroom. Again, this may sound crazy, but learning some basics about how to sing properly in terms of projection can really, really help you in the long term of having to use your voice in the classroom as a teacher. It really, really helps with understanding the dynamics behind proper breathing, projection, head tone, because it allows that voice to carry well. Now, there are other things that you can do to help with the logistics. One is by instead of having students come to your office individually, having group office hours. And this applies more to the college and university setting rather than the undergrad. So you set aside a time where you have 7, 8, 9, or 10 students come to your office at once. You explain things, answer questions, reteach as necessary to that 7 students, rather than having all those students come to you individually and burn up more of your time and thus increase your workload. And of course, also, as we mentioned in the previous slide about automation, finding avenues of communicating online can also help, whether it's chatting through your learning management systems such as Moodle, or if you're more into the Facebook groups, or even text messaging, I guess, can be appropriate in some contexts. Making sure that you're able to share important information with students in a way that's fast and efficient is very, very valuable in terms of managing a larger class. Even though the class is larger, students still need to have a sense of that personal attention that they often need in order to be successful. And this can be achieved through making sure that you have a way to communicate with them in a highly efficient manner. So, in conclusion, we talked about here 3 common headaches or problems that teachers often face when working with a larger class: getting the students engaged, dealing with the heavy amounts of marking and communicating progress, and of course the various aspects of the logistical side. Now, as a teacher grows and matures, of course you're going to have your own style on how to address these things, but the ideals shared here were just to try to get you started in dealing with this common problem. So, my name is Darren Thomas. I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. Thank you for watching, and take care.